Okay, welcome back, everybody. We are on 7.1, Board Chair Report. And there's a couple of items that I just updated.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Was there any items that the board wished to deal with after in camera?
Yes, sorry, I completely went to my paper. Yes, so the board is receiving the resignation of Trustee Sandra Bannert. And we thank her for her service over the past, I think it's been 16 years or so with Star Catholic. So we do have some committee items to talk about quickly, and I think Ed is going to put them up for us.
In addition, Madam Chair, I think you have to also determine whether the board wishes to hold a by-election as well.
Yes.
So I've drafted some language around that as well. So I'll kind of display all of that sort of en masse. Is that large enough for everybody to see?
Yeah. So we have two options. So as per the Education Act, we can continue as 5 trustees. So we are in compliance with the Education Act. Or we can look at a by-election for the Drayton Valley Ward. It's unlike the Leduc Ward where we do have 2 trustees and one person, myself, I have taken it on to cover, represent both wards for the remainder of this term. And I have been supporting Drayton Valley as well in this last while Trustee Bannert was on leave. So just a quick discussion on how to move forward. Are there any comments about the 2 options that we do have? That we hold a by-election or we continue as 5 trustees? Trustee Efron?
Madam Chair, if I may, looking at, we're in an election year. We have a new Education Act that came into effect not long ago. Again, looking at our financial situation, and we want to be financially prudent with what we have now and to support. I know the workload will have to become larger. Simply, like you said, you've taken on that role to support that community. And I believe that community will be happy to have some enough time to bring the best candidate who will be able to. And looking at all these timelines, I'm of the view, and that's my opinion, to hold, not to hold an election to support the community, since we are in an election year, and for them to make the best decision for a candidate in the fall. That'll be my suggestion, not to hold an election, but continue to support that community so they can rally and then have the best candidate sent forward.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Efron. Any other comment, Trustee Sirois?
Yes, I agree with Henry. Since the positions for Trustee Bannert have already been filled, and with only 6 months left, and the fact that a by-election could be expensive, I would vote for not holding a by-election and just carrying on as we are.
Trustee Tegwood?
I agree with Henry and Liz. I would vote to carry on too, for the reasons that they stated, that it is an election year and financially we're probably better off to just wait until the election in the fall. So I would agree with that.
Okay, so
oh, and I
yes,
will try to stay healthy.
Trustee Tegwood, yes?
I will try to stay healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have been attending the school council meetings in that community. And I am committed to supporting that community. So I will, I'll do my best to continue to do that in whatever way I can, I guess. And I am in communication with trustee or Sandra, and she can probably direct me a little bit more on if there's other things that need to be done or other communication in that community. So anyhow, I am willing to continue on with that for the remainder of the term. So we do have a motion there. And it would be the second one that we would be looking at, that the board continue with only 5 trustees as per the Education Act. So is there somebody willing to make that motion at this time? Trustee Sirois? Okay. go
Yes,
ahead.
I would like to make the motion that the board continue with only 5 trustees as allowed under the School Act 881-2,
Yeah, it's the Education Act.
or the Education Act, yeah.
Yeah.
Education.
Okay. Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and that's carried unanimously. Okay, as for the committees, we have a couple of spots that need to be filled that Sandra had, so. The TBAC,
I'm already on
Trustee
feedback.
Sirois?
Yes, yeah.
okay, so Trustee Sirois has volunteered as a member of the TBAC. And Donna, Trustee Tugwood, you had already volunteered to be part of the long-range planning, and you'll remain there?
Yes, I will.
Okay. And ACSTA, Trustee Efron, you are the alternate, and you are willing to take
The role of
that
the-
place for the remainder of the year, or take
Yes.
that position, and I can stand in as alternate.
Thank you.
Okay, so once that is up, we'll just need a motion to accept the appointments as we've discussed.
Just try and space it so it's a little easier to read.
Yes.
Okay, Trustee Efron, would you be willing to make that motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm waiting for that the board make the following appointments to replace, to fill the resignation that had occurred on the board. Trustee Taylor Sirois as a member of the Teacher Board Advisory Committee, short TBAC. Trustee Tagwood as a member of the Long Range Planning Committee, and myself, Trustee Efron, as the director with Alberta Catholic School Trustees Association, and Trustee Lemar as the alternate director of the Alberta Catholic School Trustees Association.
Okay, any
Thank you.
comments or questions? It all looks good to everybody?
Mhm.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Okay, and that's carried unanimously.
thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ed. I don't know, I just flipped my page and I just figured we should continue on.
You're welcome.
Okay, board chair report. It's always towards the end that I seem to find a way to skip through things. Okay, board chair report. There's a couple of things that I added since the agenda was published on Friday. So we did receive a thank you from CCSTA on our Tunis for Tuition. So I did forward that to everybody. So just expressing a thank you to our staff and trustees who are contributing to that. And just a reminder, I guess, Trustee Svidich, if you, last month we talked about trustees who have grade 12 students, when they have a moment to speak to their grade 12s about needs for tuition, there are resources on the CCSTA website and a video. So when you're able to, you can connect with your school. February 16th, we did receive an email about the budget. February 25th, this is actually the same day as our community consultation. So we do, it's right at the exact time that we're having our community consultation. So we might have to have a plan for that. And we are going to talk about that at 7.10. So I'm going to just add, depending on what our options are, if we have one trustee and one admin, or one trustee and Charlie, like step out of the consultation process and listen to the budget, I'm not sure. But we have to figure out our options there. So we'll talk more about it down at 7.10. Otherwise, are there any comments or questions about my report? If not, we can move on to 7.2. And this would be Charlie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start by highlighting in the area of faith leadership. So the Chair Lemaire had asked that we feature a different mark for Grace in each of the months through to the end of the year. So as part of that process, I do an all call to the administration, and we were pleasantly surprised by some of the responses that we received. So you will have received a copy of the division. We created a newsletter to try to capture those good news stories and highlights of the marks. So we were very pleased with the submissions, and we have forwarded those off to Bonnie, the Provincial Grace Director for Grace. So that was a really good news story. And if you haven't checked those stories out in that newsletter, please do. I'm going to go to number 5, and I'm going to ask Lori to touch on the second bullet. So we have, as a division, kind of taken up a piece of software called Tactic, and it's related to Vitra, and we're excited about the potential of it. So I'm going to get Lori to maybe just explain a little bit about it, please.
Sure. Thank you. So the RCSD, the Leduc RCSD, had some funds left over, and so they used those funds to purchase the Tactic software for any of the members of the Leduc RCSD, and we have a 5-year license. And so the Tactic software is directly related to Vitra, and it's through the North American Center for Threat Assessment and Trauma Response. And essentially, it is a digitized way of keeping track of any kinds of potential issues that are emerging, or any Vitra issues. So it's web-based, and it's essentially a portal where users log in, and they can collaboratively dialogue and keep information in regards to any emerging issues, which is good because, number one, they're able to have a record that is on file for many years. So let's say the principal changes or the LSF changes, this information remains in the system. Or it can also track if there have been repeated incidents over time as well. So it's essentially software that our administrators are going to be able to use, and to be able to support any kinds of emerging issues that they may have with students that are up and coming. And then they can also collaborate with outside sources as well. Are there any questions?
Oh, that sounds like a great resource.
I have a quick question. So is that tracking students that have been assessed under Vitra?
It can be students who have been identified in a vitra, or it can be students who are essentially bubbling up with issues and they want to keep track of that. So it doesn't have to be exclusive to a vitra situation, but it may be something that could be potentially flagged, and then they want to keep track of it, because if there are repeated incidents, it may lead towards a vitra.
Okay. And you're saying this is just unique to RCSD Leduc, or is provincial wide?
No, actually, well, if it just depends if you're working with Vitra. The RCSD for Leduc bought it for, for STAR, for Black Gold, but they're not saying, oh, only the schools that are in this area can use it. It will be like Drayton Valley schools will be able to use it. Any of our schools will be able to use it within STAR. Yeah.
Okay. So any of our schools able to put in data and to receive data? Okay.
That's correct.
All right. But yeah, I have just a concern that probably if it's not unique provincially, right? Like you said, if you flag a student from up north with the potential to be violent and is now in our area, we may not know, right? And likewise, a student who with a past violence moving somewhere else that are not into that portal wouldn't be able to access those information. Right. Yeah.
Now, my experience is that if there was a student that was moving from one location to another, that perhaps would be identified through administration. Yeah. We wouldn't be sharing this platform with, let's say, Grand Prairie or something. This is for our own division, within our own division, for our own use and for the capturing of our own information. But if we did have a student that was potentially moving to another place, we would then, and there was an issue, we would then initiate conversation. Yeah, sorry.
Henry, Trustee Effon, if I could just jump in for a second, Lori. This will allow us to track problematic behavior and allow us to get some demographics and patterns around that within our division. Whenever we do a Vitra, our administrators are supposed to put a sheet in the CUME file that says a Vitra has been done. No details of it. But when that student moves on to another division, that school principal can say, oh, there was a Vitra. They can contact the former principal for some details around it. That process is in place already.
Yeah.
This is not a sharing of information. It's very, obviously this information is sensitive.
Yeah.
Not anybody can access it, but with the partner organizations, that information can be shared. There is a protocol provincially on that. So that's just allowing it to be digitized in an easily accessible place, because right now this is just on paper. So this is a lot more accessible and practical.
Yeah, no, yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So next I'll highlight in number 7 is we have met with our administration to discuss budget for the upcoming year. I will let trustees know there's a lot of nervousness amongst our school administrators. Obviously, depending on whether we're held harmless or not, will have a huge impact on our division and how we proceed into next year. So for that reason, administrators are a little nervous. We do see some needs, for some additional central office staff. I will let trustees know about that. And primarily when we speak of those needs, I would say the bulk of them are in the student learning support area. So whether they be in the areas of speech, OT, more psychological supports, we are noticing that, we could use more. The amount of needs of students seems to always be escalating, especially now with COVID. We have, as a kind of a senior administration, advocated for that as a leadership team, but we've asked principals to speak about that with their staff, because there's always a reluctance to add more centralized support because it means less money in the school, so it's always a give and take. But it's our job as a senior admin to present to schools where we see some gaps or some possibilities for enhanced supports. So we have had that meeting, And administrators have until February 24th to let us know kind of how discussions went on their end. And then senior admin will use that feedback to kind of determine next steps. Obviously, the announcement on the 25th from the province on budget will have a huge impact. If we are short money, it will be unlikely that we'll be able to do anything. But if we're held harmless, there are some possibilities there for some enhanced supports. So I just wanted to kind of bring you up to speed on that. And then the last thing that I'll touch on is the Father Lacombe groundbreaking. So overall, I would say it was a successful event. We did live stream that onto our Facebook page. We do realize that sound wasn't great. I guess it's part of the learning, I guess, but when you don't do a lot of these events live, you don't become experts at it. But we do realize that our sound wasn't great. We did have a number of people dialed into that event at different times. But I will say, though, that for the people that were there, it was a very beautiful event. People seemed to be happy with, the speeches and the overall feel of it. Obviously, we couldn't actually break any ground. It was a little hard, but we did flip some snow. As a follow-up, just so the trustees are aware, so Caitlin is in the process of sending thank yous to all the participants. That's done. She's also working on a press release, a news release on that to be distributed to our media partners. And Principal Maria Wagner is doing an interview with the local newspaper on the groundbreaking as well. So those are kind of some of the follow-up pieces as far as that goes. But I don't know if there's anything that you want to ask, but I will thank Caitlin. She did a lot of work to set that up. We were restricted to 10 people. And that was a challenge, despite us saying to some of our partners, if you have a driver, they have to wait in the car. They didn't really follow that, but hopefully nobody took any wide angle photos to do a count. We might've been at 11 or 12, but, and that did hinder us because I kind of walked in just on a little conversation there. I don't know if it was the start of the day, but if you wanted to have media there, a newspaper, for example, they're part of the 10. So we had no room for anybody extra to attend the event, not even a student. So anyways, I'll be happy to entertain any questions or.
Trustee Tugwood?
Yes, my question would be the speeches. Unfortunately, I did tune into it, but I wasn't able to hear them at all. Were any of the speeches recorded that we could hear them now? Was it recorded at all?
Well, the Facebook Live was recorded, but other than that, I would say no. Caitlin, anything to add to that?
The only thing I would suggest is, I don't know if you tried watching the live stream on your cell phone, but if you watch it on a desktop, you'll probably be able to hear more of the speeches.
Oh, I was in bed, so I used my iPad and I couldn't hear.
Yeah. So I think if you were to listen to it on a desktop or a laptop, you would be able to hear a little bit more of the speeches, but the only recording that we did was the live video.
Okay. And I was a little bit disappointed that it wasn't spanned around. So in the introductions, we couldn't see the people that were being introduced.
Well, I initially I was further back, but if I had been further back to get all of those people in it, then the sound would have been even worse.
No, I meant move it closer, not further back.
Oh.
I mean, maybe be up closer, say where Maria was, or just 6 feet from Maria, that maybe. But I mean, I don't know. I just.
Like I say, I mean, hindsight is 2020. I mean, we'll definitely take some learnings from this for the next event, should we have to do that. But I mean.
Is it on the website right now? Like I can go to it with my computer?
Yeah, if you just go to the division Facebook page, it'll be right at the top there.
Okay, I will do that.
Yeah, you can rewatch it. Yeah. I found it better on the computer. I could hear. And
okay,
yeah. And I think, just it was hard to get everybody in because the spacing, physical distancing, etc. So thank you, Caitlin, for the work setting it up. And it was a very nice view. I mean, the sun was shining and the couple of posters were up. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was good.
They were up by the sign. I thought that was really nice. So
Yeah.
You know, and there's things that you can't count on or anticipate. I mean, they decided to start clearing snow at the rec center next door, just as we were in the middle of our ceremony. Like, you know, what do you do? It's just a bad luck.
yeah,
Yeah.
Despite Caitlin's evil stare and glance over in their direction, they didn't stop.
didn't stop. It's too bad the pandemic, because it could have been such a big affair. But I guess that's the way it is.
Yeah. And then the thank yous. I guess the one thing that I was wondering, because we didn't have trustees there, are the thank yous, is it a standard letter from the chair, or how is that thank you going out? Because I think I'd like it to be a little personal from us, since we didn't have anybody there.
So are you suggesting that you would like to see a letter? We weren't going to do a letter. I was thinking that we would do kind of like a more of a flyer. But if you want a letter from the board chair or the local trustee, we can definitely do that.
Yeah, how do people feel about it, trustees? Because we didn't have a representative there, so I just thought it should be a little personal from us. Trustee Sirwa?
I think a letter would be better. It's a little bit more personal. I think that'd be good.
Okay, Trustee Efron?
A short letter with a line of an apology in there, send it out. And like we were talking already as well, right? With some personal phone calls, and then let's rectify this. Yeah, thank you.
Think
Okay,
a letter- sorry,
Trustee Tugwood?
I think a letter would be good. Also, I will make a phone call to Talia and to Ron and to who was the other one I was going to phone? Maria. And
Yeah, and Father Schmidt.
Father Schmidt. Yeah,
Yeah.
make an
Yeah.
apology to them.
So, and just a reminder, like at a local event, we'll always have our local priest do opening prayer too. So that's something that we can make sure that we do for our events that we put on.
If I could just ask or provide a suggestion, would it be fine if this letter, you know, had the chair and the local trustees' names on it? So
Sure.
it could be from Donna and Michelle? Is
Yeah,
that?
sure.
okay?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm just, something seems a little odd about an apology and a thank you letter. I don't know if she's going to be making those phone calls.
Yeah, a thank you letter, that should be fine.
Yeah, like not necessarily an apology letter, but just like just this, what happened, like the circumstance. There's no,
Yeah, we
Well,
had circumstances beyond our control.
that's right, yeah.
Something to that effect, I guess.
Yeah, if we frame it that way, it
Yeah,
would just read better.
okay.
Okay. Are there any questions about any other items in the report?
Anyone else? I just wonder if under 2.0, emerging issues, is there anything out there that we should be aware of? Or are we seeing, you know, something that's being discussed that we will end up having to consider?
No, those are mostly administrative issues that I'm meeting with other superintendents about.
Okay.
Obviously, if there are needs to advocate, I will bring those to you.
Okay, and PUF audits, because there's a lot of advocating in regards to PUF funding. Are we finding that we're feeling the effects of the shortfall in funding, or?
I've asked Lori to enter into some communications with our director, Chris Pirro, on PUF. I'm not sure that we have any kind of concrete findings to discuss at this point, but I will say, I mean, obviously, when you go from $25,000, $30,000 per student, you know, and you reduce that in our case down to anywhere between 5,000 and 7,500 per student, it's not the same service or program. But we're operating within the funding framework that we have, and the government was very clear in that funding review that they cannot sustain the year-over-year increase in the amount of PUF students provincially. And they were very clear when they were putting this new funding model together that that was a concern that they had to address.
Mhm.
And I know that there's a lot of advocating provincially to restore that funding, but it would mean flipping the funding framework on its head. I'm just telling you that basically you're asking for a new funding framework, at least for that demographic. But anyways, Lori and Chris are going to have some discussions. Lori, I don't know where you're at in that process. Do you have anything to add?
Not as of yet. It's a bit early right now to be saying, decisively how we've been affected. I mean, we are seeing the effects, but it really is only February. So,
Okay.
and I'll be continuing to meet with Chris. My apologies for that. I didn't add that.
Okay, thank you.
Michelle?
Yes, go ahead. Trustee Tugler?
Father Lacombe, we were going to mention doing something nice for the staff. Do you want me to take them some donuts or something?
Oh, yes. Well,
we
we're wondering when there's opportunity to provide, a cake for the school or something, they could share, have their own celebration, because that's usually what we would do. That we will do it. We could just leave that up to Charlie and Maria to figure out.
Okay.
So the board would like to sponsor that, if that's if that would be in agreement with everybody.
Yeah, that we can definitely do something like that. The issue is it's not on the table. You can't share food like that at this time. So unless it's a prepackaged item, we could do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want us to proceed with like a prepackaged item, we could do that. But and if it's like a cake or something, it won't be this year.
Yeah. No, I would say like Maria and could figure that out the best, what she would like to see best for her school. And it's just an offering from the board just to, let the school have their own celebration in some way that, so if the board is in favor of that, we could put it on the action sheet. Trustee Sirwa?
I was just going to say, yes, a cake wouldn't be acceptable because of COVID. But for example, individual packaged cookies by George is acceptable.
And we have a place in town that does really nice individual package, say a cheesecake or something like that, and each one in their own styrofoam container. Like something like that would be good.
Yeah. So I think that admin could figure that out if, the board would like to sponsor that.
So you're looking for something sooner rather than later, I'm hearing?
I think whenever it's appropriate for, Maria. Trustee
Madam Chair, if I may, whatever is appropriate and when the time is right. March 1st is the start of work, right? So if that time is warmer, whatever, the board will sponsor it. So when you have that discussion with the admin and then figure it out, the sponsorship is there when the time is right. Thank you.
I would just say it should be sooner because of it being connected to the groundbreaking. That's my thought.
I was just going to mention that to the students and staff of the school, they weren't part of this groundbreaking, so it'll just be like some random food is how it's going to come across. I'm wondering if you tie it into like when the construction workers show up on site. Hey, we're celebrating the start of the process or something like that. If we show up with cookies on Monday, they're going to be like, oh, cookies. Why are we getting cookies?
And that was what I was saying, when the actual work begins, right? And then we tie that into it when the time is right. So
you were thinking for all the students too. No, I thought you meant just the staff. You're thinking individual things for all the students too? Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, it's a celebration for the school because we have done that in the past.
That's going to be expensive.
And I expect that the principal and Charlie could figure out the timing and the something that would work.
Okay.
Okay. I just had a couple of other things. Just wondering how Power School is going.
Power School, what's that? Lori, do you want to give a bit of an update on that?
Absolutely. Okay, so Power School is rolling forward. We are currently working on the registration process. We have just met with Power School and are going to meet with them tomorrow to review any of the changes to the registration form. As well, administrators and admin assistants will be trained in scheduling, so that as this season comes up for scheduling for the new year, they will know how to use Power School for scheduling. And that's more for secondary than it is for elementary. And again, we just keep rolling forward. We have implemented the parent portal for secondary and the student portal as well.
Okay, so it's moving along.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay. And then just about the proposed assessment for K-4. So what does that look like? And it's under number 4 too. Attended the CAS Assessment Advisory Committee. The purpose is to provide feedback on the new proposed assessment from the UCP platform. So actually assessing K-4.
Lori?
Most certainly. So I was nominated to be on a provincial committee for this assessment purpose. We're just in the middle of it. It's a bit kind of the messy middle in regards to what we're doing, but in the end, the goal of this advisory group is to come up with some statements for CAS to advise the ministry in regards to assessment, particularly for K-4. So what is the purpose of assessment? You know, what are the uses of that assessment, etc. So we're kind of, again, in the middle of it right now.
Okay, so it's good opportunity for feedback. Right.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it's an excellent opportunity. It's about maybe 10 people from across the province that are in the similar role that I'm holding as Assistant Superintendent of Learning Services that are advising.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. And then what about summer school? That's under number 4 as well. Like, what does summer school look like?
So currently, Assistant Superintendent McGinnis is working with Principal Dunlop on what summer school might look like. Sean, do you want to provide some feedback or comments on that?
Certainly. So yes, Madam Chair, summer school will look different at STAR than it has in the last number of years. Summer school typically was run, it started quite early, like in May, and this is going to be an actual summer school where it's going to take place strictly in July. And we see this as a nice change. Still at the planning stages and lots to work out, because typically what would happen is it's the outreach staff that would run the summer school because it took place during their calendar year. This won't. So there's lots of things, logistics to be worked out yet, but it's exciting. It's going to be hopefully a big draw and something we can build on.
So is there demand for it to change up and look different?
One of the challenges before was always that students started taking summer school while they were still finishing up regular school.
Regular school, yeah.
So it was system overload, and it ran like that for many years, but we still see this as a step forward, that the actual year will be done and students can then plan to take courses in advance if they wanted, or if they needed to brush up on something, that they'll know exactly where the concerns are. I think it'll be more clear cut for them.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
One thing I'll add to that, Madam Chair, is, you know, we'll have to see how many students are interested.
Mhm.
You know, if they don't register, we don't offer a program. It has to break even. Summer school is the one component in the funding model, the new funding framework, that's still funded on credits compared to anything else. So the credits of that program will pay for the staff of that program. So it needs to break even.
Yeah, it needs to self-fund. Yeah.
Will this be in person or virtual?
We really don't know at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I would anticipate that it's not going to be in person, but I mean, who knows between now and July what could happen.
Okay, thanks.
And then the online learning for 21-22. So there's talk about continuing on with that for next year.
Once again, we'll have to see where COVID is at.
Mhm.
In May, we do have an agenda item to discuss with our superintendent's council about, you know, do we want to entertain a possible 7 to 9 online school? If COVID's a factor, we will have to provide an online program. I mean, we would not provide a program.
Yeah.
So right now, we really kind of need to see where things are shaking down.
Yeah, it really appears like really things have changed. Some things have changed permanently, and COVID is not going away very quickly. So, okay, thank you very much, Charlie. 7.3, Secretary Treasurer's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess kind of the highlights around 3 things that I've been working on over the past month. Of course, everything kind of preliminary and investigations and starting to set up for the 21-22 budget year, and the budget development processes there is kind of been a good portion of the time for the last month. With regards to financial risk assessment and in conjunction with the closing of the tender for Father Lacombe, I've just sent over the tender documents to make sure that we've got insurance coordinated between the construction and the existing facility. In case something happens between the two, we don't want to be something caught in the middle, and we've got insurance companies pointing at each other in terms of getting us up and running and operational. So that's in process right now. Along with Father Lacombe, of course, I've participated in the tender evaluation. And I was just checking to see whether they've done any public announcement as far as the awarding has been, because until that's done, I can't speak to what the results of that evaluation have been. I think they were quite happy that we had a number of reasonable, in terms of their background and expertise in school construction, make their final tender. And so it was kind of a long process because both me and the director of facilities reviewed each of the tender packages. And then we spent another full day reviewing it with representatives from Alberta Education, Alberta Infrastructure, and finally summarizing the final results in the final selection process. What was interesting is this is the first time that they've also included provisions in the evaluation for Alberta Infrastructure's past history with the respondents. So there was a calculation and a factor that was included that if they had prior not working knowledge of working with this contractor, there was a rating system in the back of my mind that was being utilized, and that would affect the final results. So, but this is the first project that's kind of been evaluated on. So it's a bit, I think, not to say it's not well developed and well thought out. It was just to see how the results impacted. That was the first time that had occurred. And then the last thing is, again, working towards March presentation of a communication plan with regards to the elections for trustees. So me and our communications manager have looked at that and started to flesh out that program. And so I think we're both kind of excited to share that with trustees at the next board meeting. And that's sort of the highlights that I have for my report.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
I do
Trustee
one.
Eflin? Yep.
Can you enlighten some more about the proposed school site allocation agreement with the city of Leduc? And the facilities, your last point there.
Yeah. The City of Leduc has been looking at developing this kind of master agreement. We have a loose agreement currently. It is not intended to replace a joint use and planning agreement,
Okay.
which is a much larger document. This is just to kind of somewhat document what we've been doing up to this point and encapsulate it in language. And it's been based on a number of meetings that have been held over the last probably 3.5, 4 years to summarize, not only is it, the site, but also the impact of when a school announcement is made and those type of aspects. So the City of Leduc had forwarded a draft document for us to consider, as well as Black Gold. I sent back numerous comments in terms of whether the timing is appropriate for certain actions, some of the language and some of the outcomes that are there to make sure that, it is a partnership and that partnership is always upheld and that as we're coming across sites, that partnership looks at it kind of equally, that everybody is equal in terms of how sites are assigned.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. That's important. Thank you. Trustee Svidich?
Yeah, Ed, I just had one question on the transportation management. So you got intervene on processes to ensure parent provided transportation payments have been made. So do most of the parents make those payments online?
Well, it's not, it's us paying a parent. So we have circumstances where we don't have the services available to transport a child to the school. And especially this year, after the annexation to the city of Edmonton, we've got a few of our families that were formerly residents of our jurisdiction, which are now residents of Edmonton Catholic. In conjunction with Edmonton Catholic, they have basically grandfathered those families that they would allow and continue to allow those families to attend our schools. However, we don't have transportation services into that area. That was provided by Black Gold. Black Gold has ceased to transport in that area. So those families that wish to continue with our schools, and I'm going to focus on that one because it's an easier example. For those families that wish to continue to attend those schools, we reached out to them and said, we've set up the agreements in place with Edmonton Catholic, which we were a resident of, that they could transfer not only our educational funding, but also our transportation funding to us.
Okay.
And so we could support and subsidize, if they wish to transport their child to the school, we could support and subsidize that with Alberta education funding.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, so what we had an issue with one family. It came to my attention that there had been delays in their payments and paperwork. So I tried to make sure that was done and those that omission was corrected as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm just wondering, so just like conventionally when parents are making payments, are they sending in checks? Are they doing most of the parents just doing it online?
I think most parents are doing it online through our cash system.
Right. Okay.
Trustee Afwan?
Oh, this is unrelated, but I know we had a family in Beaumont that were going to Eck Island. Are they all graduated now? I haven't seen that request come forward a year or two now. They may have.
I'm trying to remember when I reached out to them. I think they were reaching an age where what had happened?
They were driving.
Yeah, they were driving them, but it was the age of the students, and they were aging out of that.
Okay.
And so they were no longer requesting transportation approval for transportation.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, I know we've done those requests in the past.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, no other comments or questions? Thank you, Ed. Okay, so we'll do 7.4, then we'll take a break. So 7.4, I'll just pass this over to Charlie. So it's about our board retreat. And, things aren't really clear what May looks like, whether we can gather in person or for a short time in person or that sort of thing. So we came up with plan A and plan B, depending on the situation as we lead up to the retreat. So go ahead, Charlie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as explained, there is a plan A and plan B. Plan A is in-person board retreat. It'll be on one of the Saturdays in May. Because of COVID, Archdiocese has not permitted organizations to book facilities that far in advance. So it's hard to say, which Saturday in May. So that's to be determined. The in-person event, what's proposed is a start time of 11. So there would be a session until noon, a little bit of a picnic lunch, and then it would culminate with the Mass at 5 o'clock. Right before that Mass, the last session, chapter 8, would be led by Father Silvichin. And we could give him a very specific topic and he could lead us in that. Plan B is a half-day virtual retreat. Just knowing what virtual is like, we thought that 4, 5, 6 hours of Zoom retreat would not be too engaging or stirring. So that option's a little shorter, and it could either be from 9 to noon or 1 to 4. So those are two proposed kind of events. Now the book, which you can kind of see a little bit of a picture there, is Behold the Mystery. That is the book that the division teachers and staff are doing for a book study, those that have chosen to voluntarily do that. Those books are in Kim's office, and what Kim and I discussed is that we would like to mail those to you. So you would get it right to your house rather than trying to get them to the school and then you having to go to the school. Just with everything being what it is, we're going to mail those to you directly in March. So in the next couple of weeks, we're going to send those to you, and then you can start to read those books at your leisure. But the retreat will be based on that book. So that's kind of what's proposed for the retreat in both scenarios.
Okay, is everyone in favor of kind of that option? So we have a plan A or a plan B, just depending on the situation when we get closer. All good? Trustee Serwa?
Oh, so we're not making the decision today, whether it's plan A or plan B?
No, we're going to start with the in-person retreat. And if the numbers, if the COVID numbers are prohibit us from getting together, then we'll go to plan B. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Trustee Tegwood?
My only suggestion is if we can meet in person, but all be wearing masks and sitting 6 feet apart, I would rather be virtual where we can see each other and understand each other better. If that was what was looking at in person.
Yeah, so definitely when we come closer to the time, we'll know what the situation is and we can choose for sure. Okay, thank you. Okay, so it is 2:10. So how about we come back? Oh, sorry, Trustee Serwa?
Can I ask Ed a question that I forgot to ask?
Sure.
Under the facilities management, reviewed the proposed school site allocation agreement with the city of Leduc. What's that all about?
Yeah, so he did touch on that. Trustee F1 had asked about that. So there was a proposal that was, the city of Leduc has committed to looking at their allocation of school sites. Well, actually more equitable, I guess, between the two divisions. And a draft came to Ed and to Black Gold, and they each got to review what the school sites look like and give feedback and suggestion. Is that basically everything? Go ahead, Ed, if you want to add.
Yeah, it's not so much on the school sites themselves, it's how the various school sites are allocated between the respective boards. Previously, they had been assigned before construction. So as they arose, the school sites were assigned to one or the other boards here in Leduc. That process hasn't worked well because provincial announcement for schools kind of changed in terms of the priorities and who would be building when. The requirements for school sites and have changed and evolved over time. So some sites were determined to be undesirable. So the city of Leduc wanted to encapsulate all of those kind of changes in terms of operations and make the process a little bit more streamlined in terms of their planning. They're working with multiple developers as well as two separate school boards in a growing community. So I think they wanted to get a stronger process in terms of recognizing that the requirements of sites have changed. The funding announcements, the funding is not determined by the board, it's determined by the province. So the need for a school site is less in control of the municipality and the school boards. It's more in the control of the province. So I think they wanted to just kind of strengthen that process and strengthen their planning process in terms of having information in terms of enrollment, when they are talking to developers, when they are giving feedback to developers, in the whole process of establishing school sites and what the needs of the community are.
Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah, it's the process. Yeah. Improved process. Okay, so it is about 2:15. So if we come back at 2:25, 10 minutes. Okay,